Yes, I threw all his clothes out into the front lawn, but I saw text messages with another woman on his phone. So what else was I supposed to do? Or yes, I screamed and I called him names, but I had to. He had said and done something that was really hurtful to me. But here's always the most surprising thing to me. They don't deny or minimize what they've done. They justify it. They rationalize it. They give me a reason why they did the big, bad, terrible thing. When I hear this, I know I am dealing with the losing strategy of retaliation. Losing strategies are defenses, behaviors, coping skills that we employ when we feel threatened or hurt, and they work to keep us protected. But the reason we call them losing strategies is because they lose intimacy. They cause us to lose intimacy. They cause us to lose connection. And we're never going to get closer to our partner or closer to repair when we go back to these losing strategies. So today I want to talk about the losing strategy of retaliation. I'm Desirae Ysasi, and I'm the Director of Training and Certification for the Relational Life Institute. So if you've seen some of the other videos, we've been talking about losing strategies, and the one I want to focus in on today is retaliation. Retaliation is an interesting one. I've heard it said that it is actually kind of a perverse form of communication, because when we retaliate, what we are trying to communicate to the other person is just how much you've hurt me. That thing you did or said or didn't do that I wanted you to do, it hurt me so deeply, and the only way I know to communicate that is to do something to hurt you right back. I am hurting you on purpose. I am doing something to you to cause pain on purpose because I am perceiving that I was first wounded by you. I was first harmed by you. So there's some entitlement behind retaliation. I now have the right to do whatever it is I think I need to do because you first hurt me. There's a few reasons why we do this. So the first one I've just touched on, which is it's a form of communication. It's a way that I can let you know the thing you did hurt me. So if we're in an argument and you attack my character, or you call me a name, or maybe even you start to yell, that hurts. And so in response to that, rather than saying, hey, that hurt my feelings, I yell louder. I say something even meaner. When you have a client that is telling you, I have to do this because they hurt me and they need to know how badly they hurt me, what we can do to work with that is to teach them other ways of communicating their pain. The interesting thing is we can kind of get simple. It's kind of like, if you have experience with kids, one of the first things that they learn to do if you're doing something that they don't like is they reach out and they swat at you, right? You're time to pick up the toys and you're cleaning them away and they don't like that. So they're swatting at you, they're hitting you. That is their way of communicating. I don't like what you're doing. So we teach our clients to use their words rather than counterattacking, yelling louder, calling names. Take a breath and let the person know that hurt me. What you just said hurt me. You're yelling and I'm feeling really anxious. Could you lower your voice? Could you say that another way? Spend some time with them kind of telling the story of their pain. What does that pain feel like in your body? What does that anxious, nervous feeling feel like in your body? Where do you experience it? Let's sit with it a moment. If you're feeling your heart beating, maybe you can put your hand on your chest and just take a few deep breaths. Learn to ask people to slow down, to pause. But this is a simple and yet incredibly effective and powerful way to help people move out of communication through retaliation and move into communication about their experience. Inevitably, what happens is it brings in some vulnerability to the dynamic, and your partner can't help but listen. If you're screaming back at them, they can't take that in. They're staying in their defended, protected place. But if you are letting them know, I'm hurt, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I don't like the way this feels, it can invite more curiosity and more listening and more intimacy. So that's a great way to work with retaliation in your clients that are using it as a form of communication. Another way that people are using retaliation is it gives them a sense of righting a wrong. What you did was wrong, and so I need to kind of correct the imbalance by doing something wrong back to you. So it's funny, very recently, my daughter and I were at this local place where we frequent very often, and we had an experience with the cashier being rude to us. And I won't get into the details, but he was legitimately straight up rude, just very rude. Some of the worst customer service I've ever had. And so I started to speak to him about that and say, hey, I don't understand what's going on here. This isn't what we usually experience when we come here. And unfortunately, he just doubled down on his rudeness. And eventually I decided I needed to just walk away. I told him, all right, thank you. Have a nice day. And we walked out. Well, my daughter immediately was like, oh my God, that guy was so rude. I can't believe you told him to have a nice day. I would have told him he was a big jerk and he needed to, knock it off, or I'm going to speak to your manager. And I said, really? You would have called him a big jerk? And she was like, yeah. And I said, well, I can understand why that might feel good in the moment. I said, but, I don't really want to be that kind of person, and I don't want to invite that kind of energy into the rest of my day. And without pausing, she goes, well, I am that kind of person. And I laughed and I said, well, sweetheart, you're 14, and I hope that by the time you get to be my age, you'll probably have a few more tools in your belt besides firing back an insult that could help you navigate a situation like that. And that's the thing, right? So our clients who feel they have to right a wrong by doing something else that's equally wrong, they are really coming from a more immature historical part of themselves. And what we want to teach our clients is, look, yes, we all have those impulses, those knee-jerk reactions. And many of us, when confronted with something that feels unfair or unjust, we want to fight back by giving someone a taste of their own medicine, by restoring the balance, by doing something just as mean and nasty back. When we allow those historical immature parts of ourselves to engage, that does more damage to us even than it does to them. I will walk away with that scenario still playing out in my head, with all that adrenaline charged up in my bloodstream. And we'll have to sit with that the rest of the day, especially if I'm doing it with someone that I'm connected to in an intimate way. Then that energy kind of just continues to exist and bounce back and forth between us. So I have to resist going into that 14-year-old part of myself and letting her take charge. And I have to call on the wiser, older, more mature part of myself that has learned other tools. And one of the bitter pills that my wiser, more mature part of myself has had to swallow is not everything is restored back into balance, right? Like, not everything is fair. Not every injustice or unfair thing that comes my way is going to be offset. So in that moment, was I right that the cashier was being really rude? Yes. Was it fair that he was treating me that way and that I didn't get an apology from him. No, that wasn't fair. And I can accept that as an adult. Sometimes the best thing I can do for myself and for my relationships is to just say, you know what? Thank you. Have a nice day, and walk away. This is something else that we want to work with our clients, is some of these immature belief systems, and helping them to see that staying stuck in that is not only a disservice to the relationship and to the other person, but to themselves, and to help them see the cost of staying in that negative, counterattacking energy longer than what's necessary. They can take some power back by learning when to walk away. They don't have to RSVP to every fight that they're invited to. And there's actually quite a bit of power in that. So retaliation as a form of communication, retaliation because it gives us a sense of fairness and getting things back in balance. The last thing that I've heard, or the last reason I think that people will retaliate, is they think it's a form of self-defense. They think it's a way that they can keep themselves safe, that I can show you I'm tough, I'm not to be messed with, and so even though you might have hurt me today, I'm going to hurt you back so bad that you will never try to hurt me again. And so it's a self-protective strategy for controlling future pain. And again, I think when we're working with our clients who use it for this reason, we want to show them the cost of that, the cost in losing out on intimacy, the cost to their energy. And I also think we can teach them strategies that will keep them safe, reasonably safe, that are far more effective than fighting back harder and meaner and stronger. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to come back to some things I've talked about before, which is our internal boundary system. Strengthening that protective boundary, strengthening what we allow ourselves to absorb and take in, learning that there's actually quite a bit of strength and power in just walking away and removing yourself from a situation. And those are tools that can protect our psychological or our internal psychological boundary. It can help to keep us safe inside our minds and our hearts. While we may still experience things in life that are painful, we can have more agency on how we absorb that and how long we hold on to that. So that's the losing strategy of retaliation. If you are interested in learning more, you can check out our other videos on the losing strategies. And for more support and content like this, you can subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next video.